Welcome back to the SMITE Console League. My name is Fench, and happy that you decided to join us once again. We're calling this halftime in between Europe and NA. I'll break down what happened at the top of the day in Europe and give you all a bit of a sneak peek at what's going to be coming up with North America as well. First things first, back in, well, I do want to tell you about that Jormungandr skin. That's the real first things first here. That's the Splice World Championship skin. Remember, they won back last year when they came here to DreamHack. That's what it's all about. If you guys want to celebrate the World Champion Splice, then pick up that Jormungandr skin, all part of that HRX digital loot pack. Only 1,500 gems. That's not even the only thing in it. There's a ton of stuff in there, so make sure to pick that up. But as I was alluding to, I'm going to go ahead and start breaking down the day here for you all. We had PS4 EU and then Xbox EU to kick off the day, so we'll start in PS4. Aerial Arise did not need to win that game or that set in order to lock themselves up as the representative, but they made sure they did anyway. It was a bit of a fun game between Aerial Arise and Out Cold. Maybe not some of the picks you traditionally see, but I do think everyone still came out to try and put their best foot forward, so glad they got to have some fun. Aerial Arise came out on top 2-0. Then we moved on to Xbox EU, where Rival grabbed the win over Davos. That was off broadcast, so don't worry, you didn't miss out on that one, as well as Team Jellyfish and Hive Central battling it out in what would end up being a 2-1 affair amongst them as well. So a bit of a kind of drawn-out, long, tough match, but in the end, we got towards the end of that match. It did not affect the standings there at all. Rival already locked up the #1 seed. They'll be the team that you will be seeing in that sort of placement week as those console teams fight to join the SML teams, the SPL teams that are already down. So that's Europe. Now we're moving on to North America. We've got some really big matches coming up, specifically in PS4 NA, which is that first set. That's Nemesis versus Big Money. And if you're thinking, man, those two teams seem really close, because they absolutely do. They're tied at 8-2 with the same plus minus. So this is a huge match between the two of them. This could very well just determine which team is the team that actually does move on to that placement week as well. So if you are planning on going somewhere, maybe stepping away for a little bit, then you need to change those plans. Make sure you're here to watch that PS4 NA set. I imagine that one will be a doozy. Then after that will be Xbox NA, where Hype Unit will be going up against Blanche Fan Club. We lined up a ton of the top-end matches for you this week, so I couldn't imagine one to be anywhere else. Hype Unit still very much in control here at 9-1, and with a pretty dominant plus-minus at 16 as well. But they can go ahead and seal things up quite nicely by taking this win over Blanche Fan Club if they were able to. So these next two matches are certainly going to be competitive. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back to start them up.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the SMITE Console League. North America is what's on the cards this afternoon. We're going to start things off over on PlayStation. Joining me in the desk is going to be the one and only Anatoly, and we're going to be breaking down Big Money up against Nemesis. Toly, these two teams are still with a shot of coming to Worlds.
Very true. Both of them tied at 8-2. If Nemesis were to win this one, this guarantees them actually a spot at the placements because they have 2 out of 3 of their match victories over Big Money, and they would have 3 out of 4 with their head-to-head record.
Gotcha. So it's a big matchup between these two then overall, honestly. Winner takes all to an extent. Is there a way if they do lose this, there's still a chance?
It's a very small chance, but yes. Even if that Big Money win this one, Nemesis can still qualify.
Well, there's still one more week to go after this week, but this could be the be-all and end-all of the run of PlayStation North America. Nemesis will be first pick, first ban. What are the expectations from the banning phase? The usual Isis set, Persephone?
Yeah, that's going to be the usual one, but up against My Sweet Potato, you're really looking at the Hunbat ban. He really likes these heavy CC control gods. If it's not that, it's sometimes the Dodge G, and that's why they're actually banning away the Gep and the Khepri, these defensive guardians, to allow this jungler to reign supreme.
Yeah, look for the aggressiveness early with the assassination. Odin banned out by Isis. Interesting to see Odin, not normally seen. That kind of gives me a tingle of maybe we could see a big-time healer coming through, but wait a second. She got through?
She did get through, right? Like, because you still have to ban sets. That got through as well if Big Money really want to go for that. But surprised to see that they go for the help. But with the Odin ban, you don't have any anti-healing you have to worry about, especially when you draft a Circuit on top of it.
Yeah, then they pull in the Circuit too. That's an interesting one to see. Now, I saw the Odin ban from Nemesis and was like, well, maybe they go for a healer composition by banning Odin. Or they could be looking to pick up Amaterasu. But if Persephone's on the table, always pick her if she's up. She's OP. That's all I'm going to say. She's just OP. There's nothing else to say.
She's hard to kill. She has a lead as well. So if you're going to first pick the Persephone, you don't really care if you're dealing with the Odin because of that cage, since you could just jump away from it. But if I'm Big Money and if that's Circuit's support, I kind of want to draft a Willish in the jungle because you could pull the Persephone in. But Susanoo, not too bad either at control. That Typhoon controls a lot of space.
Well, it does look like it's going to be in the in the support position for that Circuit for Big Money then. With Susanoo drafted, you don't normally see him in the support role. Into the Cataban phase we go then. Sun Wukong and Kronos taken out so far. More carries focused on by Big Money here as they take away the Jingwei. Super safe in that laning phase. Strip that option away and allow these assassins to maybe get towards this backline.
And we don't know who's in the long lane yet for Big Money, but if it's a Hell, it wouldn't be too bad considering that she thrives with a lot of levels. If you're left alone to your own devices to farm, you want the Hell to be baking in the oven.
Wait, what? Bacon? She's baking in the oven?
Baking in the oven. You know?
Okay. I
Takes a little bit of time, but you know, once it's fully cooked.
Like 400?
Yeah,
25 minutes?
Or 20.
Always prevails.
Blaze it. Hercules, Erlang Shen, the last two picks from Nemesis GG here. Big front line with those 4 warriors, I should say, after the Amaterasu too. A little bit worried for Nemesis in terms of when we get to the later stage of the game, because sure, they're beefy totally, but they will fall off a little bit.
This is a very aggressive front line from Nemesis, and I love this because everything is on the line between these two teams. You're going to need to take some risks to get off to a better start, and I think that they have a good balance of this early and mid-game control. Then they got the mobility from the Amaterasu in the late game if things were to go sour.
So Ryan Jarmanganda will be in the solo lane, playing the Amaterasu, Jumper in the jungle on the Erlang Shen. Coils in mid on the Persephone. Matt Coys and Zaxi will be running out the technical duo lane on Hercules and Chak. Meanwhile, Big Money Esports with the Snados in the solo. My Sweet Potato, Potato in the jungle. Privative. I'm never going to get that name right. I don't know why on the Hell. And that Hell is going to be the duo lane with Bodilla in support and Conviction in the mid lane. I really like the Hell being in the duo lane here. I think this is the right sort of call. Just because you've got that Chernobog that can also rotate to these fights with the two assassins.
And normally Privative is in that mid lane, so this is a swap for them to be able to switch their mid laner to this long lane because of the pick. Probably Privative is more comfortable on mages and Conviction more comfortable on just natural physical hunters, as Conviction should be able to rotate to the long lane if Privative were to get in trouble. And Zaxi, not normally known for playing anything other than hunters. He likes his Chronos, he likes his magical hunters and physical, but this chalk is a nice test for the public to see what he's capable of, especially if they make it towards placements.
Well, you already saw Potato there, just aggressive, getting the blue buff away from Yarmanganda in the jungle. And now Bodilla trying to contest against Zaxi on the other side. And it looks like he was able to strip that away too.
That timing.
Just keeping the pressure on in the early game then, Big Money Esports getting themselves off to a decent lead. I was checking with the two supports, both going with the boots 2-star. We've seen so much on the Hercules and the Circuit. We do see a difference between Blink and the Horrific. There's Jumper now blinking into the duo lane. Hell's in trouble, and she's going straight to Hell if she doesn't run as fast as her little... Well, she's not even running, really, is she?
The counter Blink is actually looking for one more axe. Needs a basic attack.
Oh,
doesn't get it.
Now they're going to get turned around. Now there's going to be a double kill. He'll get one. He'll get two. Mistakes were made. Disaster!
What a play from Privative, because
That's not a
honestly,
play, that's a drop.
no. He healed, he was about to die, but instead of going back to the safety of his tier 1 tower, he narrowly avoids one last basic attack from Zaxi, and because of how low he was, he baits out the blink from Zaxi. I like that idea from Zaxi because he tried to blink in front to body block, and if he wasn't going to get the kill, then maybe the Susanoo, or rather Jumpa on the Erlang Shen would have found the last hit, but it allowed Big Money to make this rotation, and now the Hell that is susceptible to early ganks is going to be thriving the rest of the laning phase.
Let's have a look back at that again, because that's madness. It's console league madness, that's what that is. Look how low his health bar was, 85, 90, 108, I'm just keeping his eye, 66. The axe
Three!
And then the heal was insane. It was a really good turnaround, though, from his team turning up and the heals he gave himself.
Shoutouts to Health Potion and Multi-Potion taken at the same time. 15 health per second for 25 seconds allowed him to get to that 3 health marker.
Do you reckon they need a nerf, Totally? Do you reckon multis and health
I
potions
was
from
thinking
stack?
about that one day to like suggest that into balance. Not multi-potions or health potions of their actual healing per second, but maybe the duration of it, because 25 seconds
It's a long time.
is a decent amount of time, and you know, 250 health, that's basically half of a squishy target's health pool.
Staying on the left-hand side, potentially here, as the Hell gets aggressive once more. Just going to force Zaxi back, who's at level 3. McCoy's only at level 2, however, the Hercules, as you'd expect. Nemesis just trying to defend their own jungle here and remove this pressure that Bodilla is now trying to put on them too.
The last time Bodilla was able to strip away the red buff and the purple buff because of the damage modification from that red buff, that's the only reason why he got that second buff to begin with, and this is why we're seeing a little bit of a lead for Big Money. It's not just those 2 kills. It's not just those 2 Totem of Coups that they've built up for themselves. It's the double invades.
Snado's up against Yarmaganda. Hits level 5 a little bit earlier. That's probably down to that blue buff invade earlier on that just slowly set behind Yarmaganda in this lane. But then again, Nemesis are kind of behind in multiple roles now with how this one stands. A little bit behind in the jungle. The Jumper there up against My Sweet Potato. There's Koi's trying to get these left-hand harpies. He'll get one, have to relinquish the other after the driving strike consumed. But all good so far from Big Money.
An interesting idea from Yarmaganda that we don't see in the solo lane much often is the Silver Breastplate start. Because he knows he's not going to get his blue buff very often, he needs to rely on that extra mana and MP5 to still stay relevant. It's something that actually I believe Deathwalker used to do on the Kabrak, and he would start tier 2 Silver Breastplate.
Just remove a bit of your mobility, though, with not going into boots. He could have looked for Talaria as another option there, right? For that little MP5, he's worried about it. But I guess if you're going to go into Breastplate of Valor anyway in the build, going for it earlier and just continuing to farm up can be effective.
Normally, the most effective choice of going Talaria boots is when you don't go teleport, because you want to make up for team fights. You want to get, let's say, a Shell, Sprint, Horrific Emblem, whatever the case is, maybe even a Frenzy. So you don't go teleport for that reason, and then you need to cover the lack of mobility rather, to get back to the lane with the Talaria boots. Get that extra boost of movement speed once you leave your fountain, and the MP5 doesn't hurt either.
Ball's being contested by both teams. Nice Earthbreaker driving strike combo on Bodilla, and the axe was raised and lowered down by Zaxi for the first kill for Nemesis.
And without any sort of purification beats, Bodilla was just destined to fall there. A great push. Matt Koiz even delays his pull after the fact and trusts his teammate Zaxi with that Storm Call ultimate. A beautiful coordinated execution out of Nemesis to get back on the board.
Look at this goon squad from Nemesis, though. 3 warriors all hanging around here looking to fight. Coils rotating from the mid lane too. Early ultimate coming out with Conviction there, aggressively towards Zaxi. But his potato on that Susanoo. That's going to be a casualty here as Coils just steps out from round the corner with one of the strongest ultimates in the game.
The way Nemesis are prioritizing their targets are so methodical and well calculated out. Both of their kills are on targets that don't have purification beads. For that reason, Jumpa uses 9 turns of Blessing, gets off the knockup, Coils throws out his ultimate, rooted and crippled in place, can't do anything about it. A nice second kill for Nemesis.
A little bit weird from Big Money, though. Conviction ulted very early with that Chernobog, but it kind of telegraphed the whole fight, right?
I feel like he was predicting that he was about to get turned on as well, and he had to use the purification beads to get on out of that one.
Well, with the dice 2-2, 1,300 gold lead still for big money at this stage. Gold Fury is available, but you can start to see the little green icons appearing on the map here or there. That's those plants that Coils is going to be placing down consistently. And I guess in a weird way, we've not had chance to see too much Persephone, but objective control, if she can plant a garden, is going to be a very good defensive option.
Takes a little bit of time to pop off from the ground, but I totally agree with you. You can easily pull it. It lasts for quite a long time, so it's not as though you have to go for it right away. You can plant a couple of them. You have up till 10 total that you can have at one given time, and if you already have your passive stacks maxed out at 25, then you don't have to worry about like popping them instantly.
Do you reckon you could solo a Pyromancer with those? I'm just thinking like maybe if you plant enough of the garden and get them all to tier 3 at the same time, maybe.
I don't know if you need I don't know if you could solo it, but you would definitely not need much more DPS than
Sure,
her.
yeah, just on those on their own, right?
Like 2 man and that's enough.
We'll find out eventually how much damage they will do, because it's still a learning experience of how much they will swing for. Obviously, at full tier, those plants do hurt and chunk heavily, and you can't really avoid them other than just, well, basically running away.
You have to use some sort of disjoints to prevent that kind of damage, as Coil's not having to do anything to disjoint that Cobra's Kiss out of Bodilla.
Pressure from Zaxi on the left-hand side, though, but against Primitive here on this hell, going to be a hard time. This is very much a healing and sustain matchup. This is something we would have expected to see years gone by in the solo lane, though.
Oh, yeah, right? It's funny how that kind of works out. Solo just casually migrates over.
Oh, big fight in the jungle there around the red buff. Oh, big monies. Ultimate already used by Bodilla. And as I say, ultimate used, Coils pins him to the wall and brings him down. Potatoes there to pick up Jumper. And now the 3 remaining Memezans of Nemesis from that invade fall back. 1-for-1 support for jungler.
Definitely favoring out big money thus far. Good rotation from Zaxi to be able to get there first. Privative not able to make his healing an impact, and that's going to be important knowing that Hell is such a big staple in these team fights. Now you do got to worry about the anti-healing options out of Nemesis, and inside their kits, they don't really have it. They need to start building into it because Privative is getting to that stage where team fights is coming sooner rather than later.
Tamaku's going down on the right-hand side again for big money. It's 4-1, that'll be in a second. As Zaxi a little bit aggressive there in the lane, but he'll be fine as he resustains back up. That matchup is really a non-factor until somebody else really turns up to that Hell versus Chak, right?
I mean, you say that, but now with Privative having this comfortable gold lead, I think that Zaxi made a good statement to get experience back with these rotations. But the gold lead, now with Jade Emperor's Crown, Zaxi does no damage.
With his build though for Chak, right, and his leveling abilities, do you change the leveling order of your abilities if you're behind or ahead at all?
It depends. If you're looking to be aggressive and trade with your opponent, you want to max out the 2. You get a lot of protections, and it doesn't matter if you're hitting minions or gods. It's just per enemy unit in general, and minions are considered those enemy units. So you can get up to, I think, about 100 protections on your 2. Whereas if you're just looking to safely clear from a distance, then you want to max out your 1 and then constantly reset.
I was meaning more to do with the 2 and the 3 because the heal from the torrent could be pretty impactful, right, for the sustain option?
It is good for the sustain option, but you have no clear otherwise without your 1 or your 2 upgraded. It'll take you like multiple abilities just to clear instead of just one full combo of the 1-2.
Carlos picks up the red buff from the jungle before Big Money can look around there. Potato on their way. We'll drop a ward down and find out it's already on cooldown. Lots of plants placed down in mid lane as Persephone continues to keep the pressure on. But Chernobog relatively safe because I guess if he does get all in by those plants, he can just dart into the wall relatively quick. Back to safety. Same can be said for Kyle as he avoids the kiss from Bodilla there.
Yeah, Conviction going to have to hug some walls up against some of these plans as Matt Coyce was thinking about making a rotation happen. He needs to finish off another item here, probably finish off some booties as well. Working on what I believe is going to be a Relic Dagger.
Zaxi's going to watch himself here. He's up quite far in the lane to poke, but with Bodilla rotating back, we'll have to fall back for now. And that Relic Dagger you were just mentioning, we normally see quite a lot these days, and it's mainly for the fact of the Relic usage, right? Not just for the health and the extra cooldown.
Yeah, you definitely want to get like the mobility, like everything that it comes with is so really nice. It's a very cost-effective item. It doesn't give you too much of any one individual stat. It's kind of like the jack of all trades item for these early mid-game portion team fights, especially if you're going to go Blink at level 12.
Earthbreaker combo connects on Bodilla, but you can see he's a little bit tankier than he was before. Obviously, now that those cooldowns are used by Koiz, he's under pressure. He uses the mitigate wounds for sustain, but the last breath will cancel all of that out from Bodilla. And that's going to be a nice, easy pickup.
And Coils, the poison actually spreads right on top of him. Snados with the flanking rotation from the solo lane. Gonna proc that Persephone passive, but I don't think Coils can get real damage off before going down.
Zaxy's low on mana, and the pressure could be there as he gets pulled in by Potato on that Susano, and now 5 members strong. Big Money turn their attention towards the first goal view of the game. Jumper's on the way, and in mid lane, Yarmungandr hanging around has his ultimate. He's taking his time, and I guess he doesn't want to try and contest this. Big Money into a nice, comfortable lead hit.
See, right there, a regular Potato wouldn't be able to make that play onto Zaxy, but a Sweet Potato certainly would.
I hate you right now. I hate the reference.
Well, I just want to make that argument.
You like sweet potatoes, is that what it is?
And Aggro hates sweet potatoes. Well, actually, he loves potatoes so much that anything that's not a potato, he hates it.
It's because he is a potato. That's the real reason for that. 6-3 then after that goal Fury extends to about 4,000 gold in favor of Big Money now. Transcendence starting to be stabbed by Conviction. Coils does have the Doom Mob to answer that back though. But more importantly, you can see that the levels discrepancy between the two is starting to grow a little bit. A couple of level differences in the jungle and the mid lane too.
The jungle lane is where it matters the most. I think an underfed jungle Erlong Shen that is going to be building glass cannon style / hybrid is susceptible to falling behind even sooner if they're not making plays consistently to keep up. Sweet Potato already has the Blackthorn's Hammer completed, already has the Brawler's Beat Stick, so he has a good power spike. And now Snados even finishing off this Hide of Urchin, working on his own Blackthorn's Hammer. I think teamfights are happening soon from Big Money.
Zaxy's very tanky right now, but he's not going to be healing much after that last breath. The Potato's there for the cleanup kill yet again. Onto a killing spree for the Susano at 3-1 and 2. And as you said, with that Blackthorn Hammer, he's going to be plenty tanky and plenty sustainable with the mana regen.
That extra cooldown reduction helps him get there a little bit faster and get disengaged. But Dylan not done quite yet. Not going to connect both targets with a Cobra's Kiss, but 4 members strong on the left side of the map for Big Money.
And makes sense because that tier 1 tower is on its last legs already. A couple of autos will be enough to bring that down. Meanwhile, you can see the rotation to mid from both the solo laners starting to try and get in the action. Surprised by the amount of pressure that I'm seeing towards the middle and left-hand side when the goal queue is already down.
And the thing is, for Coils playing the Persephone, you kind of want to pressure that lane now, but it seems that Big Money are going to still aggress towards mid.
Yarmungandr forced to use his ultimate there a little bit prematurely. Bodilla, though, on the backside got isolated because of it and gets picked off, and now Jumper falls down too to Sweet Potato, and Conviction to follow down the kill onto Yarmungandr. This is looking really good for Big Money early on in this one.
It really is, and that was a huge ultimate from Matt Koiz. It went through every single player from Big Money, but the hell healing is just getting a little bit too absurd now for even that Excavate to make a real dent in the armor out of Big Money.
Honestly, looking at the player names from Nemesis, I wasn't expecting them to be in this sort of position at this moment in time. These guys have been around the console scene for quite a while. Some of them have been, attended Worlds or even won the World Championships before.
That's very true, as Nemesis were the team to beat in Phase 1 for the PS4 NA side of things. But Phase number 2, they weren't the most cleanest to start things off, as Big Money was giving them a run for their money. Funny to say that, but I think that since
Funny
the
rhymes
end...
with money too, by the way.
You're not wrong. But to end Phase number 2, I think that Nemesis have been looking very strong, kind of like the world champions that some of them are.
Oh, a bit of a worrisome thing there. Coils in mid going for a breastplate of Valor in this game. I understand game defense is important sometimes for mages, but when you're the only real carry on this team, because if you look at the rest of the squad, they're all warriors, you kind of need all that raw damage you can really get here and some penetration too. He doesn't have any pen in this build at all.
You really do need magical damage because that's your only magical damage source as well. You have 4 physical frontliners, and if you don't have that penetration like you mentioned, then even a hybrid build such as Snados going for Hide of Urchin is going to be enough to really hold you at bay.
Yeah, could cause some problems then for Nemesis as we continue on in this one. Tier 1 tower already been down the left-hand side, makes it a little bit risky for Zaxy to be as pressured up as he is at the moment. So we'll have to keep an eye on the wall placements to make sure he's got some vision there. Red buff spawning though again for Nemesis, and you can already see Potatoes lurking, looking to strip it away if he can. He'll find out it's already down, however. We'll have the option, so he'll turn his attention to Zaxy, who is overextended here. Primitive not going to get too aggressive, just poke him out and force him not to base. Big Money are hunting, clearly, for a pick.
They really are. Even the builds can dictate that. Height of Urchin, 2 stacks for Snados, Frostbound Hammer for this Vamana. They're thinking about the long, drawn-out team fights.
Too many members just return to base with Nemesis at the same time there, and Big Money recognized the window to get a bit aggressive. Yarmungandr used the ult very early to try and dissuade the pressure onto this mid lane tower, but now in a straight-up 5-on-5 and Snados around the back, Nemesis could be in trouble.
Oh yeah, they definitely will be. Coils needs to watch out for that Colossal Fury. Typhoon rips through the middle lane. My Sweet Potato takes out the Persephone.
But Persephone's dead, but after death she can still do a ton of damage so she can find a potential pick. Primitive will get away healthily though at the backline out of mana. As Sweet Potato takes down Yarmungandr, now looks towards Jumper 2. One problem with frontline tanks is the likes of a Circuit can just shred through and ignore those protections.
4 easy kills, just like that. Big Money Esports are running away with this one. 2 towers to follow up. The question is, where do they go after? All the objectives are up.
Thinking about it, I think I'd go Fury here because it's an Oni Fury anyway. Bit of pressure on these minion waves, and that could develop into a fire jump.
It could. I think that they don't really have much mana for Primitive to transition there right away, so instead they're going to get the best of both worlds, Hindu. They're going to get the Oni Fury and the Tier 2 tower on the left side, and by the timing of their backs, they can even still get to the Fire Giant before Nemesis can set up a good staple defense with proper vision control.
10k gold, 12,000 experience. Both of those mattering at this moment in time too, because it's still pre-20 minutes in. 14,000 experience is not something you can ignore, especially when you see the level discrepancies between the two. Now there's 3 to 4 levels between some of them.
This is a big problem for when the winning team has this much of a lead with a hell on top of it before that 20-minute mark, like you alluded to. It's just not enough of a window for Nemesis to now build into proper anti-healing. Yes, they have the Cursed Ankh, but it's not upgraded Pestilence, Brawler, Speed Stick. But they just can't apply it the way that they really need to. When Yarmungandr used that dazzling offensive with the Excavate, it was only those 2 players there to defend a Tier 1 tower. Everyone else from Nemesis were just not there in time.
Yeah, they're still trying to be as tanky as they feel they are. Nemesis is on the gods they're playing, but the problem is he's just fallen further behind. So these assassins and damage dealers will do a ton more. Big Money starting to pay a bit more attention to the right-hand side. Conviction over here now to join Snados, who's proxy farming the wave and putting pressure on Yarmungandr. And now with the minion wave coming up, I think Big Money will take a Tier 1 here, as Nemesis look to farm as much as they can elsewhere on the map.
Very clean from Big Money to not go for the Fire Giant, to not go for any shenanigan plays of the Phoenixes as well. They will lose a couple of towers now. Now, to be fair, Zaxi doesn't have the most attack speed in his build. Like, it's all physical power, so it's going to take a while to get that tower. But Jumpa definitely has a lot of attack speed with the Mink.
As soon as everybody disappears from the Tier 2 on the right, though, nobody really pulls up from Nemesis at all. They're still coming for the Tier 2s, except they could lose Fire Giant here. Only Yarmungandr is here to try and defend and put some pressure on. But it won't be the case. Fire Giant goes down. However, Nemesis do at least get a Tier 2 in the left-hand side to answer back the 2 Tier 2s they've lost so far.
Between those 4 towers of the middle, left side Tier 1s and the Tier 2 tower, that is a collective 2,500 gold that they got for themselves to at least mitigate some of the bleeding being applied to them. But now they're going to have to play defense against a Fire Giant squad. Now, granted, Big Money doesn't have the enhanced Fire Giant. It's still the normal one, but it's still strong enough with their lead that they can certainly get these Phoenixes. No more towers remaining from Nemesis now.
Love the idea of Snados just sticking around to farm up a little bit more. He's probably got a little bit closer towards what's more than likely going to be the Hasten Katana in this build next, for that extra bit of a mobility factor. It's so weird to have that and Frostbound Hammer, but it works so effectively.
It really does.
Continuing the chase and applying the proc of the Frostbound to multiple people.
And you don't need that much defenses in this given situation because of the healing that you have now from Primitive. The amount of protections you're getting from Height of Urchin covers both options, and now working what I think is going to be Mantle of Discord.
It's funny because Vamana gets himself caught sometimes because of his passive. He gets bonus power for being physically protected better. But then you're like, well, do I invest more in physical protections for power, or do I invest in power and for other protections? So it's a tricky call sometimes.
And in this situation against 4 physical front lines, I'm actually surprised that he's not pure physical protections,
thought,
right?
yeah.
Especially with Breastplate for Coil, it's just not that much magical damage coming from that source. But playing it safe, you don't really need that much power. It's a utility build with the Frostbound Hammer and the Hasten Katana. You're just going to keep one member locked down and allow your teammates to be the damage dealers instead.
And realistically, Snados has only got one person to really focus in this game, and that's Coils. If he can make sure that magical damage isn't there anymore and can frontline and beat down that Persephone, it's going to give them an easy window to chop down the warriors that are not going to be as tanky as they would like to be at this stage.
2 more minutes remaining on the Fire Giant buff. Big Money are really splitting the map. It's going to be Conviction split pushing on the right side. Going to utilize that Living Nightmare ultimate to transfer over to the left if something were to pop off.
They're actually leaving Coils over there at the moment, but I think the Living Nightmare's just been used. Conviction swooping on through sooner rather than later. I say that as Yul came up for Coils too. They put a bit of pressure on, but it was only on Snados, who's perfectly fine. Phoenix still alive though, as Susanoo channeled and Yarmungand is dead. Didn't even get his ultimate off. The CC chain was so good there from Big Money. Phoenix falls on the left, right-hand side. Conviction didn't even rotate.
No, he did it.
He
He used that ultimate onto Coils to keep the Persephone in the mid lane for as long as possible. But now that there's going to be a mid wave there, he will regroup with his teammates.
I was going to be a little bit careful. No ultimate available now, but does have the Fire Giant for regen. So he's going to have to rely a little bit on Bodilla to tackle that Phoenix and allow Big Money to bring it down. They're looking so good here, Big Money. I expected this to be a lot closer in this first game.
They're just crossing their T's, dotting their I's. They're not going to go for the Titan yet, despite having a 5-on-4 advantage. Now that the Titan is at its most vulnerable form and Yarmungand are still down for 5 seconds, this could be it.
And into the throne room they go, looking to pressure Big Money. Have the damage. Does Nemesis have the damage to defend against the Armada that is Big Money Esports? In game 1, the answer's going to be no. Big Money take it in very convincing fashion there. I was not expecting to see that. 4 warriors and a Persephone did not work.
Now, I'll tell you what, though. Bodilla and also, the likes of, Bodilla was a part of every single kill there and Conviction on the Chernobog, and they were really present towards the mid game. The fact that we saw Privative survive that early gank is what allowed Big Money to control that game.
Was that going to be enough, that just that one play onto Privative at the start that went wrong? Do you reckon that was a catalyst that just meant there was no coming back into that game?
No, I don't think it was the end-all, be-all, but it definitely didn't help, right? Because of how impactful a hell can be in the mid game. There needed to be more pressure afterwards, but if you fail a second time, then it definitely is the reason why you failed that game.
Yeah, I think there's the awkwardness of that composition too. It alludes to the fact that, well, they nearly got first kill. Would it have been differently then? Who knows? Bodilla, as you said, though, that front line circuit causing a lot of problems. Against Warriors too, it just ignores those protections because of the last breath and stops the sustain, which is what a lot of Warriors have.
A good draft, I think, from both teams, but Big Money really made it work this time around. Very creative builds coming through, more old school style coming from Snados on the Vamana, real old school Soul Lane style. But when you're that far ahead, it certainly works out, and he was the utility Vamana.
Well, that's it for game 1. We'll find out what happens in game 2 very, very soon.
The SMITE Console League is brought to you by Titan Forge Games, the developers of SMITE.
Welcome back to the SMITE Console League. We're over in PlayStation North America at the moment, and Big Money are up 1-0 over Nemesis. This is a big battle between these two because the winner moves on to the placement stage. The loser, their season will pretty much stop here. Tolly joined me for the cast as well. We've already seen game 1 where Nemesis brought out 4 warriors and Persephone, and it didn't work out so well.
Unfortunately not for Nemesis. Big Money having a good answer with that help pick despite the Odin already being banned away. Also locking the Circuit to pair up with it, making sure that there wasn't too much anti-healing. I'm surprised a little bit that out of all those frontline warriors, not a single one of those from Nemesis was an Osiris.
It's a good point.
The Lord of the Afterlife.
Yeah, it's a good point. He reduces healing, and also the tether really shuts down some of the damage that can come out from your opposition. Well, we'll see what happens in game number 2 then as they get themselves towards picks and bans. Nemesis will be first pick, first ban again. I wonder if they're going to go back to what they just ran and hope for the best at the start or adjust their composition.
I think they should adjust it because also another frontliner that was neglected was the set. I don't think it was actually banned away by either team. It was Morgan, Isis, Odin from Nemesis, Geb, Kepri, Thor from Big Money.
Is it because it's a high skill cap and tricky to execute God, and obviously on console that can be a little bit tricky? We've discussed that before. Some gods like Susano took a long time to rise to dominance over in console.
It could be that case. I think that if you're running a chalk in the long lane and you're trying to deal with the health that way, that a set wouldn't be a bad way either because you can poke from a safe distance. It's actually a shorter cooldown on the skewer as opposed to that Thunder Axe too, but maybe Zaxi was just more comfortable on the chalk.
Well, this time Nemesis will ban the Persephone Circuit and Morrigan, so they won't be looking for the Odin that we saw last game. Big Money, though, will go for the Thor option after Amaterasu selected. What else got through? Isis? Hello?
Yeah, Isis is casually forgotten about. Now, Amaterasu makes sense while you're first picking it. You would rather get the mobility from the Divine Presence. And there are ways to deal with Isis. If you get an Osiris, you have the anti-healing and the anti-damage with the tether. But it doesn't seem Nemesis want the Isis either.
Okay, 2 warriors and an assassin this first phase from Nemesis. A little bit of a switch up there. But Big Money still back to Hell. I would like to see the Isis still, but Isis and Hell together, not so sure about. I don't think they could even go Isis now that they've drafted Kabrakan either, because that would be a bit heavy on the magical side of things.
I mean, I think he can still get away with it. 3 magical, 2 physical is not the end of the world. Keep in mind that Elevate roster back in Season 4 used to go triple Guardian, double physical Hunter every single time.
I definitely like the Isis just for the fact that the silences are so good against warriors. That's one thing that always shuts down warriors, is silences, knocks. Fantastic for that. Same can be said for Isis with those changes to the Dispel Magic. Now with that then, and her Odin banned away by Nemesis again. A little bit worried about the Odin coming through from Big Money here, Nemesis. And Big Money actually going to go back to the Chernobog one more time.
More comfort picks from Big Money. Conviction on the Thoth, had 100% kill participation. Privative on the Hell, almost there as well. That's crazy. Benny Hill music escape out of him in the early game. Allowed Big Money the freedom to elevate in the mid game.
It's just that extra mobility from the heel really came through there. How you drafted for Nemesis now, but more of an all-round standard composition from Nemesis. 2 sort of tanks in sort of supportive role positions. And then a Hoyi and a tougher damage with an assassin in the jungle. Big Money, though, going to go with the Erlang Shen now, so I'm excited to see how these play out as we get into game.
Still surprised that we haven't seen a Set, an Isis, or an Osiris in this draft. I think there are a lot of arguments to be made about some counter picks here, but instead they're going for something that they are comfortable with Zaxi back on the Hoyi, a physical hunter that he's known for.
Boots to start for Jumper. Meanwhile, Potato not got anything just yet, just the Blinker level 1. Seeing what his options are going to be. Obviously, we've seen a lot more of this at the junglers as of late. Either the Boots to start, or they'll go back and maybe even pick up the Ninja Tabby at the start of the game for that extra bit of attack speed and power that will come into play. Because you can wait in base and still make it to your camp in time, and that looks like what Sweet Potato is going to be doing.
But he already left the base, so he's not going to get the extra mobility from the fountain. Yeah, he's not going to have the zoomy zooms, but finishing off the Ninja Tabi because he knows that Matt Koiz isn't going to finish the speed buff in time anyway, and they're setting up a trap for Matt Koiz.
And Matt Koiz could be in trouble at that speed then as he starts it up. Rotation from Bodilla too. Good poke damage from the camp as well as Sweet Potato, who holds on to the lovely pin. And that gets the shut out of Koiz too. And at level 1, you ain't going to get away from a full boots Erlang Shen. That's how you punish these invades.
That's right. You skip the blessing, you start off the Ninja Tabi, you're predicting what the enemy support's theme is. It's invade speed. Sure, you could try to invade my speed. I'll just kill you in response. Even if he were to strip away the speed, Matt Koiz would be at the red, and he might still get caught out there because he only has boots 2.
This is a good play for Big Money Esports because now they're putting pressure on the solo lane too. Yarmungandr going to fall down, and now Big Money off to a great start with My Sweet Potato being up 2 kills at 2.
This is kind of the waterfall effect that changes the course of one game, or rather the ripple effect. You get a kill here instead of at the blue buff instead of the speed buff, and you start blue instead of the speed, and now it's like, wait, why would I go back to my own speed buff when we can invade their blue? Yarmungandr playing the Amaterasu didn't realize that that was going to be the case or the thought process from Big Money, so he gets caught out, and this is the worst early game start you could ever hope for Nemesis that needs this Amaterasu to not fall behind in the early game. She already struggles as is in laning phase.
Yeah, and on top of that, Thor getting to level 5 a little bit earlier, you could see Snados start to make some early rotations towards the mid lane. Thor's not too bad about dealing with Toth as well, just because that wall will stop the dash now and again. In the duo lane now, Big Money getting aggressive, both level 2. Beads early from Zaxi before he even got hit by the stun, expecting it. But now they're on cooldown, there's a chance for some follow-up damage. Bodilla's there for the poke, but with Jumper being here, it does relinquish some of that pressure. And obviously, Privative now out of mana.
He is out of mana, but he's getting the full benefit of that Mage's Blessing. Every 10% mana you're missing, you're getting 2 MP5. So being that low, you're basically getting anywhere from 16 to 18 MP5.
Also, you can see Shoes of Focus already picked up by Coils here, forgone the option of the Mage's Blessing in the mid lane at the moment. It is something you do want, but as I was talking, Coils was just continuing to be chipped away at by My Sweet Potato there, who just ran him down like a dog with a dog and picked up another kill.
Kill secured from Bodilla. During the knockoff, throws him the Walrus hands to make sure no driving strike was going to get Matt Koiz out of that one. That is a little tankier now with the reinforced grease, but it's still not enough to get away from all this mobility from Sweet Potato with the speed buff and the completed blitz.
And now he's under pressure as he looks to pressure Jumper, who was trying to defend his own camp here, but Koi's back in tow will force him back for the time being. Does Cabraca need a Walrus skin? Is that what you're saying? With the Walrus hands? It makes sense, right?
I wouldn't be mad about it. I'll just put
Logical.
it that way. Hey, I think it was because of FDOT that Cabracan has the fat Loki skin, right?
Is it? Is that who we get to blame? I think it was Bart, actually.
Oh, was it
Bart
Bart?
was the one
Okay.
that called him Fat Loki, because it would remind him of what, when Cabracan went into a fight, he'd use 2 abilities and you'd disappear.
Yeah.
In full damage build, and that's kind of what Loki used to do.
That's because you disappear in 2 abilities because he gives you the Walrus hands.
He does indeed, and then he like slams them around on the ground a little while too if you're still alive, put some walls around you. 3-0 then at the moment, about 2,000 gold lead already for Big Money Esports. Experience is starting to make an impact too. You can see the mid lane and the solo lane, both at level 5 already. There is a saving grace for Nemesis though, as you can see Zaxy's at level 5 on the Hoyu working towards those Devourer's gauntlets. I'm interested how much anti-heal they end up going for this game. In game 2, Nemesis did have to deal with a hell in game 1, but never really had to worry too much about the anti-heal as it didn't get that late. But Zaxy, with no beads, could be under pressure, moves away before Bodilla really looks to even aggress.
Not much mobility, and yeah, with those beats on cooldown, you better play safe than sorry. I like the fact that Zaxy is patient, though. He's not really trying to poke out Privative that already has Shoes of Focus and Mage's Blessing, so he's going to have a lot of mana and MP5 to play with in the laning phase. And I think because of all the rotations in Privative's lane from his own teammates, that's why he has a slight experience disadvantage against Zaxy, but his other teammates are covering that up and then some. Like, look at how Matt Koiz and Jumpa's experience per minute is struggling this game.
Red buff invaded by Big Money here, just to strip that down and do so. Bodilla was on zone duty and does a very good job of surviving. Got a nice cleanse out of Privative there, but now with his angles, he was trying to be smarty pants there with the blink over the wall, and instead he couldn't find his ankle, his angle, so he couldn't find his ankles either,
Yeah,
I
he
guess.
couldn't find it. They got broken now. He'd almost died to Coils' ultimate, but Nemesis got what they needed to, which was shutting down the early aggression from Bodilla and Big Money, but they still lose their red buff, and that's a Thoth that needs that extra damage for poke, because this is the point when Shoes of Focus are completed that you become the lane bully. It doesn't matter if it's long lane, mid lane, solo lane, you get Shoes of Focus, you could be doing good, but Yarmingund not doing so hot for himself.
Interesting to see Zaxi just match that as well with going for them. Snado's got a little bit overly aggressive there.
I'm surprised Yarmingund didn't instantly react by dropping the ultimate.
I'm just trying to turn around and stun him.
Like you're under my tier 2 tower this early on, you teleported to your hammer. Snados would have had to negate the stun by using Anvil of Dawn, and if you're still inside that tower range, you're taking 2 extra shots there.
That's a good point too. I wonder if he was worried that Big Money had a follow-up damage coming through and it was kind of a bait tactic potentially. Doesn't really have vision in the jungle to see what was going on there. So, you know, we could try and give him excuses as to why. Cursed Orb now online for Coils, working towards the Doom Orb we've seen so much of as of late. People just started to realize that, you know, the power's really good in this item at 145 magical power base.
Yep.
But then it also gives you movement speed and bonus power as you kill minions around you.
And once you get those stacks, it's 165 magical power. To be one-slotted, a one-slot magical power item with that much, it's a lot before you get penetration. And this point in the game, there's not that much magical protections you have to worry about. No one really has it from Big Money. But Coils still just kind of waiting for his teammates to set him up as a Thoth should.
Pressure onto Zaxi in the dual lane as Tito comes on in. Early lead from Zaxi, but the blink afterwards will continue the chase in. Conviction rotated too, but Zaxi's perfectly fine. Now the turnaround could be on for Nemesis.
Good heal from Potato after the 9 turns blessing. Driving strike a little bit off the mark now. Bodilla cutting off the escape path, forcing everyone from Nemesis towards the right.
Oh, the final judgment came through there from Coils just to push back Big Money Esports. Nobody dies in the engagement, and Nemesis will secure their own red buff here. That was all for a pick on Zaxi that turned into a 4-on-4. Couple of relics expended though, not too many. Shell and the beads from Zaxi and McCoy's is the bigger thing there for Might Sweet Potato's blink.
And Coils dropping that final judgment. Connects onto 2 targets there, stopping Big Money in their tracks. Granted, it doesn't get a kill, but not every ultimate needs to get a kill. If you could just do enough damage to scare away the opposition, that is still a marginal moral victory.
Yeah, I definitely think it was a situation of if Coils doesn't land the ultimate there, I think you'll see Nemesis look to aggressive, sorry, not Nemesis, you'll see Big Money aggressive even further.
Oh, yeah.
Knowing they've got a better survivability chance and no real burst to come at them. But because it connected, I think that just made them go, okay, let's give it up. There's no real kill here.
These big mage ultimates are always like that danger zone. You're always treading and walking around eggshells until you see that there's no more eggshells to worry about.
And then you just dive on in and eat the egg.
Yes. 5-second roll.
I mean, you said eggshells, and I was like, well, I guess, you know, if there's no eggshells.
There's a lot of calcium in the eggshells.
Just in the shells? They're really good for your plants, too, if you don't know.
What do you do with the eggshells for your plants?
You crumble them up and put them in the soil.
Ah.
It feeds them. Fertilizer.
Calcium.
Well, left Oracle's going to go down first on. Now left side Harpy's going to be looked at by Jumper and Coys. Conviction and Bodilla are nearby, but they can't really do much at that moment in time. I do love seeing that many sentry wards in an inventory, though. 4 across the map, and they're not even the support players that have them. It's a good feeling. I wish those were in my games.
That's how you can tell Big Money Esports are super focused about a game plan of where they want to control the vision. They're waiting to see where Nemesis are going to drop their wards before they commit their own sentry wards.
Well, they did have a ward to catch Coys on that rotation towards Duo. Privative will be safe for now, but he's going to be careful of Sweet Potato, as does Zaxi. And I guess Zaxi didn't have his leap available, otherwise I think he would have used it a little bit earlier there. His beads were already on cooldown. Or maybe he didn't have it open, he was expecting the blink, so held it instead. Who knows?
No, I think his dive bomb was definitely down there as Snado's ultimate still gets off a little bit of poke onto Coils. Not enough to be noteworthy of, but just the fear sometime is good enough. And this is enough space now that they know that Thoth is nowhere in range.
Completely agree. However, Thoth is on the way. Coys is too. Final judgment charge, looking for the shot over the wall. Big Money will reset the goal for you for now. And with the pressure Nemesis is starting to exert, they need to be careful about overextending, but Jarman going to go all the way with the ult onto Bodilla, and they might be able to find a pick here.
A great pick onto that Bracken support. No ultimate being used out of him. A very early ultimate from Coils because he's in trouble.
Don't think he really meant to do that. He didn't really have a choice at the end of the day, but the final judgment down. 1-for-1 as Zaxi gets a very good ricochet off. Makes it a 2-for-1 in Nemesis' favour. This is the Nemesis I was expecting. They could look for a goal for you potentially. No, Zaxi just uses ult. I guess not. But it is a chance for him to catch up to this experience in gold.
back from the grave. Zaxi making a statement. When you get those kills and you're stacking Devo Gloves, you might as well get the guaranteed stacks while you can. And I like the idea from Coils to dash in there to root Bodilla, get the guaranteed kill, but the turnaround from Big Money was certainly there. And at this point, I think that they just got a little bit too far ahead of themselves. They should have let their Kraken go.
Big Money is just playing the early game so very well from my point of view. I think that their early game seems to be the strongest point from them. I think the mid, they kind of didn't really get to see mid game last time. I'm excited to see it this time round. But it doesn't feel to me like Nemesis are very much focused on the mid to late stages with their compositions.
And this is the difference between 4 frontliners versus a well-balanced machine. You got also Zaxi playing the Hou-Yi as opposed to the Chalk, so he has more space control. He has the stuns from a safe distance. He has the ability to stun you from a very far distance if he hits it. And it's hard to really get in there when you're taking extra damage per basic attack. Sweet Potato is going to be marked every single engagement. Once anti-healing becomes a thing, that's when things are going to be a little dicey for this Erlang.
Nice little work from Big Money there. Just getting that Pyromancer on the right-hand side. No real luck from Nemesis. They didn't expect it. Everyone would expect at this moment in time the pressure would be at the Gold Fury pit. And as I say that, you can already see it's being pulled now by Big Money Esports. McCoy is the only one around at level 7. Has to be careful. He's starting to fall further behind than experience here, which means he'll take a ton more damage. He is working on that Thieves, which is an important factor. The Walrus Hands from Bodilla did him a disservice more than anything else. Matt Coys will throw a Celebration Boulder out as Zaxi got the kill for Bodilla, and the chase is on from Nemesis into Big Money's jungle.
That was 3 ultimates used just to kill the Kraken support. It's a very short respawn timer. Jumpa goes in.
And now Sweet Potato has to turtle form away, but no overextension from Nemesis as Conviction landed down there. Nice Earthbreaker followed up from Coys, but he was out of mana to really follow up with a driving strike. So Nemesis just trying to find a win anywhere with maybe stripping away this red on their exit.
They definitely should chase this down now because of the healing that they have from Privative. Not too much mana from Mad Coys. Keep in mind, still 4 ultimates now used from Nemesis. Only 3 on the side of Big Money.
We'll find that purple buff there and had to be a little bit careful because Conviction was hanging around. There's a ward down to show that Nemesis only had 2 members around that purple buff. It'll be safe for now though as we look at Zaxi's build. Going into crit early on here. Is that going to be a fail not, I'm guessing, if it's going to be this early in crit without pen?
I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah.
It's so hard to really get cooldown reduction.
Fail not, obviously, because it's a crit item. So it must be Rage, right?
I mean, you could go Rage.
Crit before pen though? That's weird to me.
If you're fighting at this stage of the game, Rage isn't going to do much for you in the team fights as opposed to a fail now, where you get the cooldown reduction, you have more ricochets available to you, more suns being dropped, and then even your teammates getting that extra critical strike. So I think your overall team DPS goes up by getting fail now, but if you're thinking about hyper late game situations where you don't care about fighting now at 13 minutes, then you want the Rage. You get penetration after Rage, and then you go Desperate.
Yeah, I saw the hidden dagger and was like, okay, that's going to be fail now. I'm like, wait, that doesn't build out of that tree.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And that's why I was like, okay, well, it must be Rage. Whereas Conviction, he's the one going to be going for fail not in the mid lane with a similar sort of build to an extent. So we'll see how these play out with the different crit options. Crit is definitely something that I think is very utilizable in the sense of squishy targets get bursted down quicker. It's good against healers because healers are about sustained regen, and if you can burst them down quick enough, they don't get a chance to heal as quick.
That's very true, but good luck trying to get to the healers now because Bodilla's in your face, as is this Erlang Thor combination. McCoy's taking a good chunk of his health just from one hammer there, but third time's the lucky charm maybe for Big Money.
Well, look at the zoning where this is just 3 members doing it. Sanato's keeping people busy in the mid lane, and at the same time, Primitive didn't even leave the lane to make sure Zaxi didn't know there was anything going on there until it was too late. Big Money Esports, Pyromancer and Gold Fury in the last couple of minutes for themselves. Jumping now over on this left-hand side, but I don't think he's going to be able to find much pressure here unless he's going to look to invest the blink. Even then, there's still beads available for Privative and a team on the rotation.
Yeah, Big Money are fully aware of that rotation, so they're making the counter rotations, even dropping Convictions, Living Nightmares, seeing if they can catch anyone slipping instead. Will cancel it, dropping back in place safe.
Yeah, I think that was Jumper just getting spotted on that rotation back out from that duo lane. And I think Conviction was trying to set something up for his team to maybe blink on in and pressure that Pella.
So something that Big Money has been doing really well during the failed attempts of the Gold Fury was scouting out where Coils was located. They were kind of flirting with the idea of Gold Fury, half committing, and then having somebody zone. In most of those instances, it was Sweet Potato dropping a ward at their red buff, realizing, all right, Coils is here. We have to be careful. Final Judgment, too risky to really try to commit. We don't want to get it stolen and then all our time and hard work just wasted. So the third time, finally, they realized Coils is just way too far away to steal this one, so they all in commit.
Well, last game only took about 22, 23 minutes, I'd say. And Big Money had already pretty much beaten down the game at that point with Phoenix 2. But now Nemesis have at least kept it a little bit squarer this time round. They're down about 3,500 gold, actually 4,000 I should say, as it stands. But they've got a lot more towers still standing. I say that as Matt Coys just gets pinched and is in hell. There was no escape for him there, and Snados with a follow-up onto Coils doesn't force Coils to use his beads, funny enough. He just sat there and ate that, which is good news for him. The tier 1 tower, however, different story.
Last time, it was 3 ultimates on Bodilla. This time, Big Money returning the favor on the opposite support. Matt Coy's nowhere to go with the tectonic shift coming through. Bodilla recognizing the driving strike is down. That was a guaranteed kill. And still, very safe calls from Big Money. With a 5-on-4 advantage, while Matt Coys was dead, they don't go for the tier 2 mid. Even though they were all there, they get the 500 guaranteed gold instead. Another 500 guaranteed gold from the Pyromancer, which is basically 2/3 effective as the tier 2 mid tower.
That's a good point. I mean, if they take the tier 2 down as well, it's an easier run to end the game, I would say, but they're still going to have the same sort of issues with the Fire Giant. You got a tier 1 tower on the right-hand side up, it always causes issues to not be able to pressure further down, maybe after a crazy fight. But Nemesis now a bit upset with how things have gone, starting to try and 5-man group towards the mid lane. 4 minion wave on the way, so Zaxi, with the help of a Toth, should be able to bring down the tower relatively quick. Just going to be careful of the blinks here.
And the global pressure, Snados, Anvil of Dawn, watch out for the Living Nightmare as well.
Coils have way more damage than bargaining for. Snados up to the backline, gets hold of Coils and gets the whole, both relics. And his life with the wall after the fact. Great play from him. Meanwhile, Jormungandr got the ultimate off onto Snados, but a little bit too late, as can be said about Nemesis' retreat there overall. Big Money lose a tier 1, but do claim Coils' life. May look for a tier 1 on the left now.
This is a great play coming from Big Money. They are so methodical about their objective control. Yet again, they could easily go for the tier 2 tower while Coils is dead.
Yeah.
Hard to defend for Nemesis without their long artillery range Thoth, but 500 gold on the left side, and now they might even go for the tier 2 on the left with the healing from Privative, but he is out of mana.
This is more to do with like just getting the free gold that's there, right? No forcing the situation. Zaxi had no relics, he's also got no life. And now no tier 2 tower to defend either. As Big Money just take him out. Snados in the sky. Got a dunk in on Coys. Level 17 versus level 9. That's the discrepancy between the two there. And it shows how rough it's been today for Nemesis.
Yeah, that's a confident play from Snados. That's not a play where he knows he's getting the kill. That's him flexing on his opposition, saying, I'm going to do this, and there's nothing you can do about it. That damage is irrelevant. It's not going to force Matt Coys back. It's a real intimidation tactic, and with this kind of play from Big Money, I don't necessarily mind it, but it's taking them a little too long to regroup afterwards. Giving up a tier 1 tower on the right side, sure, not much you could do to stop that one, but if they lost a tier 2 on the right on top, I would be questioning that kind of dive.
This just isn't what I expected out of Nemesis today, especially with so much riding on the line to come to the World Championships at the placement stage and have a shot at getting to the big one. But today looks like it's all going to be Big Money. Unless something changes here so far, things are looking great for them.
It's a big win for whoever gets this, because they're both tied at 8-2.
Yeah.
Plus minus a little different now that Nemesis dropped that earlier game. So if Big Money were to win this, that would put them at 9-2. Nemesis would be at 8-3. With 1 game each between them, it's still possible that Nemesis could get a tiebreaker situation if they were to reverse 2-0 their next opponent.
Living Nightmare used by Conviction, blinking from Bodilla, looking at Coils. Coils has no bead still, Aurelius remember from the last fight. And Potato chasing all the way in to the top of the backside. On the back of the fight though, Nemesis have numbers and Bodilla's getting low, but the wall from Snados splits the difference and claims the life of another carry. Zaxi falls, Conviction needs some peel and gets it off the wall, as now there's only 3 members of Nemesis left alive.
Oh, good stun coming through in the backline. Shumpa in a little bit of trouble using that Pele mobility to safely disengage on the right. Matt Coy's going up top. The Berserker Barrage, just enough DPS.
And not only that, Primitive kills Coys in the mid lane. This is just a bad day at the office for Nemesis. At the worst possible time it could happen. Jormungandr is going to fall on the left-hand side. The rest of Big Money get a pressure on mid-tier 2. And it still leaves those 2 members that just brought down the last member there, Jormungandr, to take the Oni Fury at the same time. Big Money Esports Looks like they're heading to placements here.
Very possible. Can we look at the healing done from Privative? It's 8,500 already. This has been such a great performance in Game 1 and Game 2. I don't think he died in Game number 1, if I'm not mistaken. Almost dying at the very beginning of it, and I think since then he got that confidence going through him. Jade Emperor's Crown, yet again this time around, is really helping him survive these engagements.
And now the Fire Giant started up by Big Money. Snadow's on zone duty. Coil's the closest one to rotating to find out what's going on. He's going to eat a wall any second now as Zaxy's got split pushing. He ate the wall, he ate the hammer, and he might just eat an anvil of death.
No, good juke from Coils, but the Berserker Barrage will force out the Aegis and the beads to avoid the stun. Coils needs to hit that if they want to kill Snados. Instead, gonna let him live as the rest of Big Money confirm the FG.
A little bit surprised that Snados didn't get all in there by the team. I know Nemesis were a little bit worried about trying to aggress further, but he just used every ability. That's the right window to take down a Thor. When the hammer's down, he can't jump away. All in him.
And the way Big Money has been playing with methodical, calculated plays on these towers and the Phoenixes, I think that was the small window they could have taken.
Yeah.
Even if Nemesis were to use, let's say, all 5 ultimates, I don't think Big Money goes for a Phoenix.
Well, it's a 4v5 at that point. I mean, you could do a little bit of split pushing, I guess, with the likes of having the Chernobog and the other 3 members in another lane. But
yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think there's any harm. You've got to get something going sooner than just sit back and just allow you to slowly, get knocked out of the World Championship spot. So it's going to be Big Money starting to group up in the mid lane. Conviction off pushing to the left-hand side. Nemesis only have a tier 2 standing on the right for now, but minions will definitely cause problems. Only Fury minions have caused a bit of an issue as this is continuing on down the laning phase now. And we may see that split again where Conviction is off to one side, the rest of the team group up in the other. And at the moment, Sanos will take that tier 2 in his own right and have that ultimate to join in if required.
Well, game number 1 was decided in 22-25, 30 seconds from this point on, but it's looking like Big Money are on that same pace, trying to end this game to qualify towards High Res Expo.
Just doesn't feel like Nemesis turned up here. No discredit to Big Money's performance here. They've played both games very well, but Nemesis just don't look like they woke up on the right side of bed. That's just sometimes that happens. I've seen it in SMITE before, where some of the best teams in the world can have a bad day, but this is just the worst time to have one of those.
I don't know how much they've actually practiced against Hell in general, or maybe even the Erlang Shen in the jungle, but Big Money are looking clean.
Zaxy forced to beads, trying to stand and bang as hard as he can. Leaps away back to the walls of Titan. Coils goes down to Sweet Potato though, and he got bursted heavily. Coys, his exit strategy was cut off, and Tato will get another kill. Now Jump is in there, trying to pressure Primitive, but it won't be enough. And Big Money, after taking the Phoenix, are going to push on for the win.
And I think that they can get it now. It's a 5-on-2.
And into the Titan room they go. Potato gets a 3rd kill in this engagement. Zaxy answers back and then throws his life away as Nemesis also see their hopes and dreams of going to the placement stages end as Privative spam last Hell. We'll see if he can do that at the World Champs.
We'll see. It took 34 seconds longer than game number 1, but Big Money looked so clean with the Hell yet again. I love the way Sweet Potato played in this set. Susanoo game number 1, Erlang Shen game number 2. It just felt like he was all over the place.
Completely agree. I'm kind of really disappointed about that because I thought it would be a really hype set between those two teams.
Same.
You know, it's number 1, number 2 seed tied up.
They're tied for first, yeah.
And then it's just a very one-sided affair that Big Money looks so dominant. It looks like they had an easy year at this point. If nobody knew that Nemesis were tied with them, you wouldn't have thought it after today's games.
Definitely agree. And Nemesis was on the up and up since their slow start in phase number 2, but now they're basically almost out of it. The only way that they can still qualify is if Big Money were to lose their next set up against Cavalry 0-2 and Nemesis were to win 2-0 against Ebog.
Is it in the script? That's the real question.
And even then, that would be a tiebreaker.
Do you want a tiebreaker next
They
week?
could actually face off again if that were to happen, but Cavalry have not won a single set this entire phase 2, so I don't expect that case to happen.
Are you planning for more games next week? Is that what it is?
I'm just saying possible situation scenarios. You're the script writer.
Listen, I know, but that worries me. When you call them out like that, there's a chance. That's it from PlayStation North America. However, we've got some Xbox to follow. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.